Welcome to our deep dive into the world of Cockscomb. You know, it's funny because we're actually using a blog post by a self-proclaimed old software plumber as our inspiration today.
Yeah, kind of a unique perspective, huh?
Yeah, it's not your typical garden guru. But you know what? He offers some really insightful tips on growing these beauties, and he's so enthusiastic about them, it's contagious.
I think our listeners will be pretty surprised.
So, let's dive in. The blog post highlights three main Cockscomb varieties: wheat cockscomb, crested cockscomb, and plumed cockscomb. You ever worked with these?
Oh, absolutely. They're all actually cultivars of Celosia.
Right, cultivars.
Yeah.
So they've been specifically bred for certain traits.
Exactly. And each one brings something really unique to a garden. For example, wheat cockscomb has these tightly clustered flower spikes that, well, they kind of look like wheat stalks.
Oh, interesting. So textural.
Yeah, they add a great textural element, almost like an architectural element to arrangements in gardens.
Okay, I can see that. What about crested cockscomb? Those are the ones that I'm most familiar with.
Yeah. Ah, yeah. The classic cockscomb, those are the ones with those large, wavy, fan-shaped blooms that really do, resemble a rooster's comb.
Yeah, and they come in so many colors, like those really deep reds and yellows and oranges.
And even pinks. Yep, a lot of variety there.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Okay, so that leaves us with plumed cockscomb. What sets those apart?
So plumed cockscomb, think soft, feathery plumes.
Okay.
They add a really nice touch of whimsy to a garden. And as a bonus, they're known to attract butterflies and hummingbirds.
Oh, so you get beauty and you're helping out the pollinators.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
I love that. Okay, so the blogger talks about two main approaches to actually growing cockscomb. One is growing for cuttings, which basically means you let them grow vertically without a lot of pruning.
Yeah, let them shoot straight up.
And the other approach is growing them as potted plants, and that involves a little more strategic pruning. Now, I have a confession. I tend to be a bit overzealous with my pruning shears.
Oh, we've all been there.
Would you say one method is better than the other for maybe a beginner gardener?
Hmm. Both approaches have their merits. It really just depends on what you're going for. If you want those really tall, dramatic stems for cuttings, then definitely let them grow naturally. But if you're going for a bushier, more compact plant, especially in a pot, you'll definitely want to prune early on.
Okay, that makes sense. So walk me through this pruning technique. What's the secret to getting that really nice bushy look?
So the key is to pinch back the top growth pretty early on. You literally just pinch off the top few inches of the main stem.
Oh, yeah.
And what this does is it encourages the plant to put its energy into developing side branches, which gives you that fuller look.
Interesting. So you're kind of redirecting the plant's growth.
Exactly. You're training it.
Now, something that really surprised me in this blog post is that Celosia is apparently super easy to germinate.
Oh, yeah, it is.
He compares it to basil and amaranth, which are known for being pretty, quick and resilient.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that these showy flowers would be a little bit more finicky. What makes them so easy to start from seed?
Well, for one, they have a high germination rate. So a lot of those seeds are actually going to sprout. And their seed coats are relatively thin, which allows moisture to penetrate more easily.
Gotcha. So you're saying I'll have a tray full of little cockscomb sprouts pretty quickly.
You will. And that leads us to something else that the blogger mentions. He talks about using cockscomb for the holidays.
Oh, yeah. That caught my eye, too. We'll have to dive into that.
Definitely.
Because, I don't know, when I think of the holidays, I think of like poinsettias and evergreens.
Yeah.
Not necessarily cockscomb. So I'm intrigued.
Well, stay tuned. We'll get into that in just a bit.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
So cockscomb for the holidays. I'm really curious about this. Not the first thing that comes to mind.
Right. But think about those rich colors. The jewel tones. They work so well with the holiday color palettes. The reds and the golds and those deep greens.
That's true. I hadn't thought of it that way. I could see using like the crested cockscomb in a centerpiece, maybe with some eucalyptus and pine cones.
Yeah. And their blooming period. It often extends into fall, so they'd be perfect for Thanksgiving. And you can even get them to last through the winter holidays with the right care. Imagine that, a holiday centerpiece with your own homegrown cockscomb.
It would definitely be unique, This whole idea of sustainability and local sourcing,
Yeah.
it's getting so popular these days.
Mm-hmm.
And growing your own festive decorations, I mean, that's as local and sustainable as you can get.
Exactly. And it's not just about being eco-friendly, it's also about bringing that natural element into your home, especially during the holidays. There's a warmth and authenticity to it that you just don't get with store-bought decorations.
That's a good point. Speaking of authenticity, what really struck me about this blog post was the author's just pure delight in growing these plants. He even calls cockscomb foolproof.
Right. You wouldn't expect that from a software guy.
I know. It's
Yeah.
so refreshing. It's like he's saying, hey, look, if I can do this, anyone can.
It really is, and he approaches it like he's solving a problem or debugging code. He even uses that language. It's really interesting.
It is. He's just genuinely excited to have discovered these plants. It's kind of contagious. It makes me want to go out and start growing cockscomb myself.
I know, right?
So we've talked about these different cockscomb varieties and how easy they are to grow, and now this whole unexpected holiday connection.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's something else we should touch on.
What's that?
Their artistic potential. I mean, the blogger really focused on the practical side of growing them. But to me, these plants are just screaming artistic inspiration.
I see what you mean. Those colors and those shapes, they're so unique.
I could see them inspiring paintings or textile designs,
Yeah.
even sculptures.
Yeah, or even beyond visual arts. Maybe a new type of fabric inspired by their texture, or fashion collection based on their colors. It's like they're begging to be reinterpreted.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's all about being open to the possibilities. And that brings me back to something you mentioned earlier about this growing trend towards local and sustainable decor.
Yeah.
Could you maybe talk a bit more about that? I think it's a really important topic, especially with the holidays coming up.
Sure. For years, we've been so used to buying mass-produced decorations, often imported. But there's a shift happening now. People are becoming more mindful about where their decorations come from and how they impact the environment.
So it's about making more conscious choices.
Exactly. And Cockscomb fits perfectly into that. Imagine growing your own decorations. It's sustainable, it's local, and it's so much more personal.
Plus, I bet it would be a real conversation starter, having those unique cockscomb centerpieces on your table.
Absolutely. And you get that sense of satisfaction from creating something beautiful with your own hands.
Definitely. So we've covered the different varieties, their ease of care, the artistic possibilities. But what about some practical advice for our listeners who might be inspired to try growing cockscomb for the first time?
Okay, so first, choose the right variety. If you want tall stems for cutting, go with wheat cockscomb or maybe Crested cockscomb.
And for a bushier plant, remember to pinch back that top growth.
Right. And in terms of care, they're really pretty low maintenance. They love full sun and well-drained soil, so make sure they get at least 6 hours of direct sunlight every day.
Gotcha. What about watering?
Water them regularly, especially when it's dry. And a little fertilizer every few weeks will help them thrive.
So they're pretty forgiving, even for those of us who aren't expert gardeners.
Exactly. And here's a little bonus tip. If you want to extend their blooming period, you can deadhead the spent flowers. Just remove those faded blooms, and it encourages the plant to produce more flowers.
So you're basically tricking the plant.
You are. It's a little bit of plant magic.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, choosing the right variety, caring for your cockscomb, even using them for holiday decor. But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to that idea of finding inspiration in unexpected places.
It's amazing where inspiration can come from.
Right. And in this case, it was an old software plumber who reminded us about the beauty of cockscomb. They're not just plants. They're potential muses for creativity. They're symbols of sustainability. And they're a reminder that even the most tech-savvy among us can find joy in the natural world.
So, to our listener, we leave you with this. Don't underestimate the power of a simple plant. Embrace the unexpected. Explore its potential. And let your creativity bloom.
Who knows what you might discover?
It really is amazing.
Yeah.
And they're not hard to grow either.
Right. We've established that they're pretty low maintenance.
Yeah.
But do you have any last-minute tips for our listeners who are now probably really wanting to grow these?
Well, we touched on it earlier, but it's important. Make sure you plant them in a spot that gets a lot of sun, at least 6 hours a day.
Yeah. Full sun is key.
Isn't it? And don't forget to water regularly, especially during those hot, dry spells. A little fertilizer every few weeks will also help them really thrive. Give them a boost.
Okay. Good to know. So I think we've covered a lot of ground here today. We talked about the different cockscomb varieties, those unique shapes and colors, and how surprisingly easy they are to grow, even for beginners. And we even explore their potential as festive decorations and as a source of artistic inspiration.
Yeah, who knew?
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to come back to that idea that sometimes the most ordinary things can actually spark the most extraordinary ideas.
Absolutely.
And in this case, it was an old software plumber who reminded us of the simple joy and the surprising beauty of cockscomb.
Yeah, it's a good reminder.
It is, because these aren't just plants. They're potential muses for creativity. They're symbols of sustainability. And they're a reminder that even the most tech-savvy among us can find solace and joy in the natural world.
I think that's a great takeaway.
So to our listener, we leave you with this thought. Don't underestimate the power of a simple plant. Embrace the unexpected, explore its potential, and let your creativity bloom. Who knows? Maybe Cockscomb will be your next creative muse.
Or maybe it'll just add a touch of beauty to your home. Either way, it's worth exploring.
I agree. So go ahead, plant some Cockscomb, watch them grow, and let their vibrant colors and unique forms inspire you. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Cockscomb. Until next time.
Happy gardening!